Okay, good evening, folks. We have an interview for the Alien event with Shahrokh Zadeh, our wonderful colleague, and we're going to put the spotlight on his material tonight. He's got a fascinating history. We had a little pre-interview talk there, and a wonderful man, incredible experiences, and I think the audience is going to be enlightened by some of the things that he has discovered and some of the things that he's teaching to the broader community. And I think that his work is important. So I'm honored to have him this evening reveal some of the things that he has discovered. And that's what we're going to do tonight. So Shah, do you want to continue and introduce yourself a little better than I did there?
Yes. Hi, Ryan. Thank you for having me.
Sure.
Yeah, my name is Shahrokh Zadeh. I'm originally from Iran. For some reason, my friend just called me Shah to make it much easier. So I was born and raised in Iran, but before my teenager time, I was outside of Iran. I was in mostly in Asia, in Hong Kong, Indonesia, those kind of countries. And then I moved to the United States in 2009, straight to Henderson, near Las Vegas. And I'm here since then.
And you told me you speak 8 languages. The story didn't cover all 8 there, Shah. Come on, tell us.
Well, I learned and then I forgot because I'm not using them anymore. So very interesting, because my father was a diplomat in the embassy in the previous regime of Iran, not this Islamic regime. In the previous regime by Shah, he was a very dedicated man, very straightforward, and he was hard worker. He was his first among his siblings. So when I was like 3 years old, we moved to Indonesia. So my family, my grandparents, they spoke Azeri, which is a part of Azerbaijan, and that's Turkish, some kind of Turkish. So they usually spoke in that language. So I was familiar with their actually vocabularies and the way they talk and they speak. So I was somehow communicating with my grandparents with that language. But of course, my peers and my kids, everybody else was talking in Farsi. So there's 2 languages there. When I went to Indonesia, after a few years, I stepped into the, what's it called, kindergarten. And unfortunately, they didn't have a Farsi language or Azeri language kindergarten. So I started learning Pakistani. So I went for a year or year more to that school, and I learned Pakistani. So I was talking in Pakistani. My friends were Pakistani, but the teacher was Pakistani. While when I come home after school, everything else and everybody else was talking in Indonesian language. So there's another 2 languages over there involved. So I somehow was talking Pakistani inside the school, and for a few years I was studying that. And in the afternoons, my friends were talking Indonesian. When I was watching TV and cartoons, it was all in Indonesian language, right? So after that, when I was about 7 years old, we came back from Indonesia, and then we went to another country. We went to Hong Kong. There, everybody was talking in Chinese. So here I am. Now I have to start learning Chinese. So for almost a year, a little bit less than a year, me and my sister, we went to a Chinese school. I did not show very progress over there, although I have a lot of friends in Chinese, but my progress was very minor. So then they transferred me to another school, which was an English school. So there I started talking English and learning English and going that way. So that's fascinating because my life took me to those places and I had to start learning their language.
So that gives you a very fluidic intelligence from a young age in linguistics, at least, right? Because you have to, not only when you learn a language, you understand different subtleties about the culture and different nuances about communication. So this would explain a lot about how you've interpreted a lot of secrets and things that maybe ordinary scientists wouldn't see, that you were able to discern from something very complicated. And
Yes.
So you had, first you had sent me some videos about earthquake prediction. And this is, I think, what you said launched you into some of your deeper investigations, but you first started to detect a pattern in earthquakes.
Well, very interesting point. I consider myself, and I introduced myself as just a curious person. That's it. So since I was a kid, I saw that different people have different activities and different cultures and different interests. So when I was in Indonesia, there was a area near Bali that there was a black mountain and they had a volcano. So my mom and me and my father, they took me with the bus. We took a tour and we went on the top of that mountain. And I saw that volcano. It was a quiet volcano, not very active. So I always had it in my mind why this mountain is all black. Well, I had some curiosity and I needed to satisfy this. And my father, in that time, purchased a painting from a person who was just sitting over there and drawing that mountain. And until today, I still have that in my house. So every day I walk by that stairs, I see it over there. So then I saw other cultures, how the people treat each other. So it was very fascinating for me. When I was in Hong Kong, at one point, a big storm came. They called it typhoon. And I was scared to death because it was horrible. It was washing the whole buildings, all the buildings in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is the island in the southern part of China, near a city called Kowloon. And it's very close to Kowloon, but it's an isolated island. So this was horrible. And I saw everybody was screaming, everybody was panicking, things like that. The next day after the typhoon was over, when we came out, I saw that how the city was actually almost destroyed with this. Not the buildings, but all the cars, all the trees, parks, everything, flowers, bush, they were all scattered all over the place. So I always had it in my mind about that. So eventually in my life, because of the job that my father had, I had to go around and go to different meetings with him. And I saw different people with different culture and different stories to tell me. That escalated my curiosity about different locations on the planet.
And your father being a diplomat, it would have been a high caliber of conversation that you're going to be engaged in with probably very in the know types of people, yes?
Well, yes and no, but when we were in Hong Kong, it was more engaged because it was those days that the revolution of Iran was happening, and superior people above him, they left Hong Kong and he was in charge. So he was the person who was talking in the media politically with all the politicians about this event. And I did not understand what he was talking about because I'm young. But I had to go and meet different people in different ceremonies. And that opened my mind about their culture and their all the other things that they are interested in. And we kids sit together and chit chat, right? We had people from American Embassy, we had people from India Embassy, we had people from English Embassy, they all were here. While our parents were in their meeting, we were playing with each other in the play yard and things. And so we actually somehow talked about things that amuses us. We shared our experiences and things like that, so.
Mm-hmm. So from the earthquakes, what did you determine was the cause of earthquakes, and what led to the next thread, the next layer of the onion?
So I was fascinating about these natural phenomena and natural hazards. So when I went to Iran, when I was like about 18, 19 years old, I was in high school, I think. Iran is one of those hotspots for earthquakes. So here and there, every time we hear an earthquake somewhere in Iran. But a big earthquake happened and a lot of people passed away, unfortunately, in like 10 minutes. They're suffocated because there was no air. And, in Iran, many of the buildings are built with clay and some other stuff, the mortals over there, and bricks. So when an earthquake happens, all these things collapse, right? The dust comes up and people cannot breathe. That's one of the problems that, unfortunately, in very short time, like few minutes, when you cannot breathe, what happens? Okay, so a big one happened, and I felt very deep in that. So I was watching TV and I tried to help them. So then one of my friends said, you know, a few dollars that, a few amount of money that you're helping them does not go anywhere. Why don't you just stop the earthquake or try to prevent it or predict it? And I saw that all the news and everybody was talking about this. So that's when I started actually searching. And I was so amateur in that. My information about earthquake was so basic. I thought that earthquakes happen in places that there are people. So it's somehow related to the people on the ground. So I started from there. So because I thought earthquakes only happen under the cities. The reason was that all the news were talking about how many people died according to that earthquake. So I never thought that earthquakes might happen elsewhere. So I started from there, going to the libraries, and we don't have that much internet, that much resources to discover and go and research and find some answers. So there was only a few libraries nearby my house. So we had only one day off. It's not like the Western society that we have Saturday and Sundays are weekends. We had only one day, and that's Friday, and everything, all the more activities with my friends are on that time. So I found the time, all Fridays, I go to that library and I sit over there and bring up all the books. While I was searching for earthquakes, I confronted with some books that they're amazing, and I read them, and they gave me some other information about other mysteries that's happening in Earth. Those are the days that I met. I got this book, is by Charles Berlitz. It's about the dragon strain. I don't know if you have heard about that. There's another book
in Asia?
Yeah, that's in actually
South China Sea?
It's in Pacific Ocean.
Okay.
It's North Pacific Ocean below Japan, Tokyo, and in that area. Because I was in Hong Kong, that fascinated me about the stories about the typhoon and hurricanes that comes over there, and all this mysterious airplanes, submarines, boats and ships that they disappear.
Mm-hmm.
So did I like my father to disappear on one of his flights? No. Did I like myself to disappear? No. So it was a little bit frightening and terrifying me. So then I read this book called The Bermuda Triangle by Charles Berlitz, and I found a lot of information, and a lot of these kind of mysteries are happening in the other side of the world, which is near Florida, between the island of Bermuda, Florida, and these areas. So I started learning about these things, trying to discuss it with my friends, and try to learn more about these things. Then near Iran, near Tehran in Iran, there's a big mountain called Damavand. It's a beautiful mountain, like a cone shape. Always it has some snow on top of it. That's another fascinating view as a scene that you go over there to hang out with your friends for your vacation, do a picnic, things like that. But also I was always fascinating about the shape of it, why it is always like a cone shape, this kind of actually volcanoes and mountains, why are they different than other ones? We have a row of mountains, right? But suddenly, out of nowhere, a mountain in a cone shape comes out of the ground. So these questions always circled in my mind, and I could not find an answer. While other earthquakes are happening, at one point, I came up with the idea that maybe these earthquakes are related to each other. If they are related, we can find a pattern. If they're not related, we will never find a pattern. Pattern gives us the road to predict, okay? So you can foresee what's going on next.
So when you say a pattern, I mean a connection beyond the tectonic plates, beyond the fact that they're on the same fault line, a connection that is more across the whole globe rather than localized on a fault line is what you're saying.
Yes, so one of the questions that I always ask myself is that why we have an area which looks like a line as a ring of fire, that earthquakes are happening there, and why we have an area that hurricanes are happening, and why in the other side we have another area that typhoons are happening, but these things are not happening elsewhere. It's only in those areas. So there should be something related to the, I can say, the structure of Earth. It should be. So I looked at it from whole to detail, not from detail to whole. My angle was from looking at the whole planet and try to come up with an idea, come up with a new perspective that helped me to somehow connect these areas with each other. Okay, so I noticed that these are isolated areas. We have hurricanes and typhoons are the same. They're like cyclonic storms, okay? And why we don't have storms in, for example, Iran, while we have earthquakes in Iran and we don't have it in Bermuda Island. So these are questions that I tried to solve. So what's the relationship between the location of these hazards? And eventually I found that a lot of other mysterious things are happening in specific spots. One of them, which is more popular in the United States, is called the Skinwalker Ranch, okay? And that is a hotspot for a lot of paranormal activities, different kinds, things that are not normal. And it baffles the scientists for a long time. Then I found out that there are other places in the United States and other places, other countries, that they're also very strange. Things happen there that they're very strange. We have it also in Iran. We have a lot of spots in Iran that they're strange. So this is how I got dragged into these kind of things and ended up me finding a lot of relationships between them. And this is more multidisciplinary research I did. I had to learn other stuff to understand the relationships between them. And eventually they started revealing themselves. It looks like you're playing with a box of puzzles and you just find a piece, put it somewhere, then you find a second one. Eventually they start revealing the true, the map or the true picture. So after I came up with a good result, I came up with a hypothesis. That's when I went back and started writing about earthquakes.
Shah, can we just take a second, because you said strange things happen at these locations. Can you give us some examples to kind of highlight the importance and the non-physical nature of some of the strange things, or seemingly non-physical, non-conventional happenings at these spots?
Well, that's a very deep question. That's a very good question, actually. So first of all, everybody, I think, likes to see things, touch things, to understand it. Since we were a kid, when we were born, we like to, our eyes and our fingers were very more active than other parts of, or other organs of our bodies, right? So we want to play with things. We look at the red color of a toy. We love it. We want to grab it and just play with it. But eventually, at one point, you understand that there are things that they're not touchable, like smile. How can you measure who is more happier than the other person? They're not measurable, okay? And there are things that are invisible, like air, like gravity, like sound. So I have a specific story of what happened to my parents that always fascinating me and increased my curiosity to find answer about that. If you don't mind, I can share it with you.
Yeah, certainly.
Okay, so then after this, telling this story, I will go back and answer your question about some paranormal things that happened to me.
Yes.
So the story is like this. So my parents, each one were the first kid among their siblings. So they have big families, okay? So then they married with each other, but for some reason, the doctor said that they cannot have a baby. So my mom was very upset. My dad was also, because it caused a lot of problem mentally, okay?
Sure.
And so they went to the doctor. The doctor says, unfortunately, there's no sign. And looks like you are one of those people, rare people, that you cannot have a kid. And one night, my father wakes up while my mom was talking. He thought that my mom is talking to him. Then he noticed that my mom was sleeping and talking while she was sleeping. And this is the story she was saying while she was deeply in sleep. She said that there is an area and there's a car my father was driving, which my father had no clue he's going to drive because he was not that rich, and very, very rich people in that time could have a car. And my mom was telling him, be careful about Shah or Shahrokh, you know how hard God gave me that kid, that son? And be careful not to hit him. He's very dear to me, you mean? And then my father immediately noticed that this is not a deja vu. This is not just a regular dream. There's a story and there's a fact behind it. There's something happening in the future, while he could not even imagine that he's going to have a car or he's going to have a baby. And anyways, then my mom wakes up. They found out that it was a dream. So next day, guess where they were? They went and jumped, went to the doctor. The doctor says there's no sign. So eventually all the family, all the relatives knew that a boy is coming and his name is Shahrokh. For many months, until one day the doctor said, hey, it looks like there are a few small signs. Come back next week's, let's wait. And we didn't have sonography the day we have today in those days. So there was no way to find out if that's a boy or that's a girl until the birth time is coming. And so the birthday came in from one side, everybody, all my relatives were happy and excited about this event. From another side, we had a worldwide incident happening. That was the Apollo 11 launching to moon. It was all over the news. So in that hospital, in that day, 4 kids were born. Since I was the first one, my nickname was Neil Armstrong. Okay, now you know why I was always fascinating about the moon and astronomy, all this stuff.
Yeah.
So then this boy was born, and the nurse jumps out and cheers that, hey, it's a boy. And they all laughed at her, and they say, oh, we knew it like a year ago, like more than a year ago. Anyways, and also that event happened, Apollo 11 launched the moon, and 4 days later, Apollo 11 landed on the moon. And so my certificate shows that my birthday is on the day that the Apollo 11 landed, while there was a misinterpret or whatever happened, the documents. I was born 4 days before that. So really, I was born that day. This brings up 2 things in my life that I was always fascinating about. The metaphysics thing happened to my parents, and I'm the evidence. And that why I was born that day, why moon is important, and astronomy, science, physics, all these things else came up. So these 2 stories combined together, always fascinating me like that. So I was always, my ears was sharp to listen about other people's stories about metaphysics and paranormal activities, things like that. And so that's the beginning of the story. So in Iran, there are places that a lot of these mysterious things are happening. I heard a lot of stories, no evidence. Everything was stories. Everything was just talking and talking. I tried to find evidence.
What were some of the stories, though, Shah?
There are stories that somebody touched somebody without you can be able to see that person. And it happened to me. One night I was sleeping, and I was just sleeping on my stomach, I think, from a side, and somebody just touched me, not with 1 finger, with 3 fingers in the back of my bone, like top. And I thought this, I'm not a person who scares him. So I turned around to see who did that to me, right? Is it my brother? Is it my sister? Who else? And there are people at home. And to my surprise, nobody was there. But I felt it, absolutely. Another thing is that one night I saw that I cannot move. I somehow, in the middle of my dreams, I was seeing a lot of things I don't recall. But then I slightly opened my eyes. I could not widely open it. I just slightly, very tiny, opened my eyes, and I saw 3 figures above me, like a shadow kind of thing, right above me. Like it looks like I was in a surgery room, and we have 3 surgeons, about nurses on top of me. But because it was slightly dark early in the morning, I could completely distinguish them, that they are 3 humanoid people with 3 heads right above me, and their hands were on me. And I was a little bit above the bed, and I was slowly moved down, and like that.
Was there any color, like, was there a mist of any kind associated with it?
I could not recall their face at all.
I don't mean their face, I mean a cloudiness, a mist. What was the Was there an
The edge,
ultraviolet nature to it? What would
very
you
good
describe?
question. Yes, I always thought about that. I still can see it right in front of me now. The edges of that shape was very sharp. Okay, it's not like cloudy, and they were somehow not transparent. It looks like you look a figure or somebody walking in the kitchen in the middle of the night. You see the figure, you might not be able to distinguish who that person is, but it's absolutely a person walking.
Right.
It's not a cat. It's not anything else. It's not a chair. It's a human walking. But because of the darkness, you cannot see the colors or anything else. So it was something like that right above me, not one, not two, but three of them. Later on, the only answer that I came up with after talking with many metaphysics masters is that I was astral projecting somehow, and I was doing an out-of-body experience, which I did that multiple times. I didn't know that it's out-of-body experience, and somehow these figures were putting me back. They say, "Hey, you were too far. Go back to where you were.
Get off the moon. Don't come back.
Don't come back." Yes. I had this kind of experience multiple times, and because I had it by myself, I cannot explain it much better, and I don't have any proof, any physical proof to actually show to others. But this is a true story that happened to me. This is one of them.
Interesting. So was there any healing relating to that you're aware of? Or, I mean, you feel they were just putting you back, or do you think they were working on you?
Well, the result that I came up with is that they were just putting me back. There was no healing involved, but they were putting me back. But I had some experiences that I had a friend that they were sick and they were some ill, and in their arms they felt pain. And I just grabbed their hands and I said, "Don't worry." I started trying to help them with rubbing their hands. And a few minutes later, they didn't have any pains at all. So that ended up me going to these energy healing places, eventually studying books. That is there something into it? Is it my hands? Is there specific energy that is emitting from my hands? From one side, I hear people that they truly believe in that. From the other side, physicists and other people, they don't believe in that, right? So long story short, last year I got one of these devices, and accidentally I found out that when I hold the antenna of this device on specific frequency, it looks like my hand is emitting a frequency other than infrared. So I copyrighted that, and I'm waiting for actually somehow to make a device, something. I just need help to build that device. Anyways, I know the frequencies. So I noticed that it's a little bit different when I rub it around my body, other places. And when I go take that near my hands, the palm of my hands, it increases. So this is physical evidence that my body is emitting some sort of electromagnetic radio in a radio form, okay, electromagnetic field, and it's very tiny. It's about 1 inch maximum or 2, okay? Yeah. And when the environment has water, that escalates rather than not having a water. If I go to a dry place, it reduces. If I go to a wet place right near the pool, it increases. So I found out that water is involved highly. And you know that our body contains about 60 to 70, 80% water, depending on the people, different age. And so that makes sense to me a little bit. So somehow electromagnetic field of our nerves and anything else is involved in energy healing. So if I can send a signal from one cell phone to another cell phone as a receiver and as a sender, why can't I do it with my body? Why can't I emit as a sender and somebody else receives it as a receiver, and there's an effect involved? Maybe. I don't know what is it. I don't know the facts, but I can see the results.
Well, I know that there are doctors who have worked on some of that remote healing and hook people up to ECGs, and there is a spike in nervous system response when they are being prayed for or energy is being sent to them. And another good author that works with that is Dr. Gary Schwartz, who does the energy healing experiments. and he does experiments, as you would be interested in, where you put your hands in double-blind studies behind cultures of cells growing, and those that are exposed to the hands of people trying to send good intentions will actually grow faster than the cultures that are not. And then Emoto took that further with the programming of water. And possibly when you said that water is related, it may be the water that's connected that is healing. You know what I mean? It may be from the water that's being programmed out. As you say, we're like 80+% water. So maybe it has to do with that, where there's some kind of a resonance, the water in your body that you're trying to, program to send out a healing energy is being received by the water in another being, and that's sending out a healing frequency in the body. But anyway, just thinking out loud here. But where did this conclusion bring you? Because now you've determined that there is bioenergy. You've determined that earthquakes and global cyclones, hurricanes, whatever, have certain patterns, that things that defy conventional mainstream physics and science occur at these locations. So where does it go next? How is the moon connected to this?
Wow, moon has a lot of connections, believe me or not. Believe me or not, one of the objects that is very always fascinates me is the moon. I feel good when I see it.
Well, every woman knows that, Shah. The moon cycle matters, but
that's a very good point. How
Yeah.
come? How so? When you have a moon and it's related biologically on woman, and don't you think it will biologically affect men as well? And all
It is very strange, and I've asked myself that, and the best I could figure is it's some kind of punishment on mankind. I don't mean that, I'm just kidding.
So I studied that. I studied astronomy. And one of the things that changed my life was an event happened when I was studying astronomy. Because I was fascinating to moon, right? Moons and stars and planets, dinosaurs, robots, these kind of things. That's what my brain was going. So when I was sitting beside my peers, they were talking about playing soccer, playing these things, which I was good at. I was good in sports among my peers in that time in high school. But when I go home, my thought was about all the other strange things, right? Those are the books I study.
The X-Files.
Yes, X-Files. So
we're all the same, Shah.
We're all the same. There always at one point in our life, something happens. And if you're carefully actually studying that or paying attention to that, it might change the way you think. It might revolutionize your path, your life, right? So in Iran, there was when I was in high school, so we were at war with Iraq, unfortunate war. I hate war. I never liked it, and I still don't like it. Many of my friends, after they graduated from high school, they have two ways: either go to military or continue their education. Unfortunately, there were very minimum actually opportunity to go to college and universities. So to continue their education, it was a big competition, huge competition. So we only had one chance a year to take a test according to our grades and these things. There's a process. You end up somewhere in the whole country to just study, and that was good. Okay. Otherwise, you end up in the military, and unfortunately, many of my friends did not come back. Okay. And I still remember their face. I then still remember their names. You know, this big effect. Just imagine, a few months ago, we were just happy playing with each other, jumping up and down, and then we see a paper stick to one of these places in the window of the store that unfortunately he passed away in the military while he was in the war. I confronted with those things, so it's really big. So when I was in the third year of my high school, which is like the 11th grade here, I took a chance to just go and take a test, right? Experience that. I did not see myself compete with those people that they've completed their high school and they have all the knowledge. But it was just a test, just to familiarize myself with the environment and the questions. And a few months later, I found out that I got enough score to actually be accepted, not just somewhere in the Iran, but in the capital, like about an hour and a half away, driving.
Wow.
That's the central place. So it was one of these universities. We have two chances, by the way, a private university and a government university, a public university. So this was a private section. It's called the Azad University. So I was accepted as a studying mathematics in the field of computer. I really liked it. That's the one I wanted to go. When I went there to register, the professor, one of the personnel over there, took few of us aside, and he told me individually that, hey, your grade in physics and mathematics was way higher, although you got a complete grade, but I recommend you to go to physics. And believe it or not, my question to him is that my interests are UFOs, aliens, ghosts, dinosaurs, and robots. And while I was telling him, he started writing something down. I thought he's not listening to me. Then he said, I just signed you up for physics. Your brain needs to go to that way. So, but I had to accomplish my high school diploma. So I went back to school. I finished my high school. And that was the time that Iraq was bombarded, Tehran, and everybody was fleeing from the city, and a lot of people died, unfortunately. And so, but anyways, then and I started my physics bachelor. I was not very interested in studying it at first because there was nothing there about that interests me. I was learning formulas. I was learning mathematics, algebra, physics 1, Newton's law. There was nothing about UFOs there. There was nothing about aliens. There was nothing about dinosaurs. Okay. So I didn't like it. The only reason I was there is because to prevent going to military. That's sincerely. But then something happened. And when I took the course about astronomy, that's intrigued me, right? So, oh my God, finally, I got something that I like. So I started that course, and I had a very nice professor. And so I learned that, hey, we have planets, we have this amount of planets, and that's it. The last planet is Neptune. We haven't found anything else after Neptune. One night, I went home and I used my algebra. I just put X, Y, and tried to come up with, just playing with these things about the distances of these planets. So I came up with something, a formula, X and Y, which when I put number 1, substitute number 1 instead of X, it gave me the average distance of Mercury to Sun. That's the first planet. When I substitute number 2, it gave me the average distance of the second planet to the Sun, Venus. Then I put 3, gave me the average distance of Earth to the Sun. Then I put 4, it gave me the average distance of Mars to the Sun. How cool is that? So I kept on going until I put number 9, right? It gave me the average distance of Neptune to the Sun. So it gave me a pattern. And then what if I put 10? When I put 10, it gave me the average distance of the imaginary 10th planet to the Sun.
But isn't the 10th planet in an ecliptic? Something more akin to a binary star system?
Almost all of them are moving in electric. The orbit is electric. The Sun is in one of the focal points of this. But some of them, like Mercury, is more circular. Then some of them, like Neptune and Pluto, is a little bit more elliptic, okay? But the thing is that I found a pattern that can predict the next planet's distance, average distance, okay? So I was
like
so
the
excited.
Octaves of the planets, basically. You're finding the slot. So the space that a planet can exist in a certain structured way.
That's the average distance I found, because the formula only gave me the average distance. And I just, this is all handwriting. There's no typing, there's no data, there's no Microsoft Excel, there's no graph, nothing. It's all handwriting with my own hand. So when I finished that, it was about 3 or 4 a.m. Okay, I could not sleep that night until the next day. I jumped, rushed to go to the class to my astronomy class. I took the papers, and that was the last class of that semester. So I gave it to my professor, and he said that he's grading all the students, he's busy, and he has a flight to catch up to go to United States. And he was dealing actually with he has some contracts with NASA and some other space agencies. So while he's out, he's going to study that in the airplane. And when he comes back, he's going to give me the result, what he thinks about this. And I was so excited that I gave him the whole papers. I did not have a copy of them. So then he left, and I came home and I said, what did I do? I just gave him that. I don't have even a copy for myself. And I didn't have that patience to sit down and write everything, what I did, because it was long. Anyways, 6 months later, 5 months later, I was, holding my breath until I meet him again. And yes, he came back. I rushed to him and knocked the door and went in. And he looked at me and he said, yes, your papers are here. And he threw the papers on the desk. He said, I liked you a lot, but I respect you a lot before I found out that you copied from a science magazine in, I don't know, 19 something. And almost the same formula is there. I was like speechless, I was just frozen in front of him. I'm just like 21 years old, 21, 22 years old. And I told him, I swear to God, blah, 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 that it was I just came up with that by myself. And he did not take it. He did not believe it. And he told me that, hey, I have a meeting, so talk to you later. I grabbed those papers. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know to cry, scream, shout, laugh. I didn't know what to do. I was just completely frozen, I can tell. My mind was just stopped working. When I came out of the room, I saw the other professor that I knew, and he, we always talk about strange things. And he asked me, what's going on? Why are you like, your face is like this? And I told him the story. He told me to go to his room. He put the papers on his desk like that. And he asked me, he said, I don't know. You don't need to swear. You don't need to do anything. Okay? I don't want to even trust you, and I don't want not to trust you. But you for yourself, just go and think. If you copied from somewhere, if you cheated, if you do anything that makes you write these things, and these are originally not yours, so you know the truth. But if you have not done that, and 100% sure that you did it, you have to actually consider yourself in a different level. Your brain is different than other students. You're somehow doing it. You should be proud of yourself, and you should think more about yourself. You have abilities that other regular people don't have. Because anyways, and I was like speechless in front of him, and I said, hey, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to promise anything. This is true. I'm just going to tell you that I did it by myself. That's it. And I said, okay, can I read the papers? He said, yeah, sure. Until today, he has the papers. Until today.
But can I ask you, did it go back to the golden ratio or golden mean, or what's the secret? Because there's something you stumbled onto, either something relating to sacred geometry or some aspect ratio that gave you this key.
So, in algebra, you have, for example, y is equal to x plus 5, for example. And then you reverse this. You put now x is equal to this, okay? You find a formula based on x versus at the beginning, it was based on y, okay? So we have x and you have y. So what I did is that, that's as much as I remember now, because he has the paper now. 15 years I'm in the United States, so it's been a while. But what I remember is that I put the distances. I made a schedule, a table, and I put the distances, the average distances that I got from the textbook that we had in one side, and I tried to put number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the other side. Then I tried to add some numbers and deduct some numbers and play with it, that this side of the table, which are the numbers from 1 to 9, matches to the other side of the number of the table, and it's one formula in between. I was just playing with that.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I put the distance and it gave me the number. Okay. So I put the distance between Mercury to Earth and it gave me 1.1. So I started adjusting my formula to exactly come up with number 1. So I went backwards. Then I put the distance of the Venus to Sun, okay? I had that number, and I put the same formula from Mercury, but I had to be careful to manipulate somehow this formula that the result is going to give me number 2 while not changing the number 1 from the previous one, okay? So when I substitute Y, it gives me X. And again, I continued that. I went to third one, fourth one. I tried to adjust, okay? So that's how I ended up coming with the formula. So I put the distance, it gave me number 6. I gave the distance, it gave me number 7. Make sense?
Yeah, but it's channels. It's basically finding if everything was a wave, okay, right? Breaks down to a wave. You found a way to determine through the actual measurable distances that there is an area in which that it may oscillate, but it falls within a certain channel. And all of those channels stack, so you could logically infer the next channel and the next channel, and based on the patterns you already see. I understand.
So I had that experience. That's how I came up with the earthquake. So it took a little bit of time right now to explain to you how I came up with the earthquake pattern and how I predicted the earthquakes. Okay. So that was the story behind it. So I just wanted to tell you some of these stories. 2 things happened. Number 1, I stopped trusting my professors to give the information. Because somebody told me why he might have taken your formula for him own. He took advantage of yours.
Absolutely.
And you're in Iran and he's in NASA.
Right.
Guess what? He didn't give any credit to you. He used and put all the credits on his hand. That's one of the things that people were talking about, all the kids, you know, they say, oh my God, you just gave such a valuable thing to a person without copywriting it. And just to let you know, we don't have copyright in Iran. So you can just copy everything from anybody. It's just like even videos, even movies, songs, everything. They're doing some, it's much better now, but not in those days. Okay. So I tried to zip my mouth and keep myself tight and not revealing this information that so that's why the things that I found, I hardly go out and publish it or do anything or talk about it or, you know, go to some of these seminars and reach out to some of these proposals. That's one of the problems. So that's why when I met this number 1 physicist in Iran, when the former president of Iran introduced me to do that, when I met him, I talked about this. Let me see if I have.
So your work at some
point
got the attention of the former president of Iran, is what you're saying.
So yes, so referring back to that, so when I met this person, I'm not going to bring his name up. Hopefully he's, I don't know, watching this or not. So when I met him, I printed that and I showed him that, hey, this is exactly happening. But he did not, he had that much confidence not to, where's the book? Okay, here.
But what you showed him was the earthquake patterns and your pattern detection within it.
It's before that. So I have to tell you this before I talk about that. This is a picture. I don't know if you can see it. It's the other side of Earth. It's in Pacific, South Pacific. Okay. And this is Earth. From a satellite picture, for example, if you take from that angle, the only thing you see is water. You don't see any lands. Down where it's white, that's the South Pole. This is Antarctica. Okay. And this side is New Zealand. I don't know if you can see it or not.
Yeah, I can. Got it.
Okay. And then this is New Zealand. And this side here is America. You don't see any other things. Hawaii is in the middle. So this, I showed him this picture that if you put a pin over there and draw a circle, you only see water. And in the other side, right exactly in the other side of this, the opposite, the antipode of that, this is the other picture. This is Earth. And guess where is the center? The center of this picture is Mecca.
Mecca. Huh.
So Mecca, when you put there, interestingly, And this image here, you can see that approximately 60 to 80% of this is land. It's not water.
Right.
These information are in my book, by the way. The details, if you want, the coordinates and everything. So you can do that. It's all scientific. So you can go bring up Google Earth or any similar actually tool, and then focus on that area and zoom out. Okay. And the antipode of that is in the other side of the Earth, which you can see all water. So now the combination of this information and what you heard about me took me to the earthquakes. Okay. I did not predict any earthquake in that time. My mind was not like that. So what happened is that this is what happened. This is true story. So I was sitting at home again with the laptop. Now I'm in the United States. It's about 2000, I think, 10 or 11, or 2011. Yes, in 2011, I can tell you exact date. So in 2011, I was home and I was working with the things that I know, right? Putting everything together. And I found out that there is a relationship between earthquakes and the Bermuda Triangle. You heard it right. I found a relationship between Earth and Bermuda Triangle. So then I look at the time and I looked at the earthquakes happening over there, and it ended up me a conclusion. So the conclusion that was that, interestingly, I said to myself that we should have an earthquake in these days, maybe yesterday, today, or tomorrow. That's what came up to my mind, all by numbers and graphs and the patterns that I came up with. I said we should have an earthquake in the southern part of the Bermuda Triangle border, somewhere between Puerto Rico and Florida. We should have a big earthquake. There's a high volume of energy concentrated in that area. And so what I did is that, because I had a laptop, a very simple laptop, I'm talking about 2010, right? 2000, I think 11, if I'm not wrong. Yes, and then when I turned on the TV, I looked at the news and it was like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock a.m. Around that time, that there was a breaking news that a big earthquake happened in Haiti. Right there. It was swarm of earthquakes and afterquakes in Haiti, which was exactly the center of the border of the Bermuda Triangle. I came up with that by myself. Can I prove it? No. So I looked, and I was so fascinating about two things. First, I was so engaged with two things. One, how did I come up with that? You know, because I was just playing, right? I didn't track it down. I didn't write it down. I didn't log it. Number two, I saw a lot of people died. A lot of kids are crying. A lot of parents lost their kids. And my daughter was sleeping in the other room. My daughter was only 5, 6 years old. Okay. And so I'm a little bit emotional. So I said, oh my God, I have a daughter there. Do I want to lose her in the next earthquake that happens here? How can I predict? How can I? So and from another side, I said, oh my God, I found something again.
But I want to understand how you're predicting, because you said mathematics, but you also mentioned the water side of the earth and the land side of the earth in conjunction some way with obviously the moon, you know? So the moon has to affect the water movement. That has to create some kind of back and forth with the land side of the earth. Is that what you're getting at? Because you do conceptual physics, you said, right? So
I'm just
what's the visual on the mathematics you determined?
Very good question. Very good question. Let's put the moon aside for now. Okay. Let's talk about the water and land. Okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing I want to say is that before we start inventing how to speak with each other, start talking to each other, okay, we had math, we had numbers. We could calculate, count how many people are right now in a cave. We're cavemen, right? We are people that in that area, in that era. And even when we go backwards, the world and the universe and the cosmos is not based on our vocabulary. It's based on numbers. So in other words, what they say is that mathematics is the language of our universe. Everything is connected to everything else through mathematics, which I believe is not absolutely true, but all the physical things that are related to other physical things through mathematics. This is a better way to say it. Because we have non-physical things also. We have other dimensions.
In this dimension.
Dimension is another way to say it, okay? Anyways, so mathematics plays a very crucial, actually, key in this. So how come the Earth has about 70% water and 30% land, same as our body, our biological body? We have also the same. These are all mathematicals involved. But we are not that advanced to calculate all these sophisticated things together and come up with a conclusion and measurements and these things. So we are a little bit behind in that. We are getting there, but we have still a lot of things needed to be done until we reach to that point. So I was connecting these things together, and then I found that the areas like the Bermuda Triangle and the areas like the other places, the other one that is it's called the Dragon's Triangle, which I was talking about, I found a lot of similarities. And so that's a little before the earthquake ended up me publishing, I mean, not publishing, but copywriting about something like about 100 pages in an A4 size book, all about the Bermuda Triangle. And Bermuda Triangle is still there, it's still affecting, and it will affect forever. Okay, that's my belief, I think. And that's what I came up with so far. And then I tried to combine them, the information that I found, with natural hazards. And the first one I picked was earthquakes. When I combined them together, I came up with time and location of the next earthquake. And the energy, when I combine that, the energy should be high in that location, in that time. So I knew the energy is going to be high. I knew the location is going to be in that area. And I knew that the time is going to be in that days. Interesting, right?
Yes.
So that's where it ended up me going to watch the TV, and the news was saying that, yes, the earthquake happened. It was in Haiti. I can exactly tell you the date because that's when I was studying that. Yes, it was 2010, January 12th. Haiti. Earthquake was 7.0.
So they had some earthquake lights in advance of the Haitian earthquake. Are you familiar? What are your thoughts on earthquake lights?
So I wrote my hypothesis in this book, Shaw's Mystic Lines and Areas, finally at the end, last chapter. And over there, I'm explaining a little bit. I didn't open it completely, but I didn't put any fact over there. But I explained that there is a power, there is a force, there is a phenomena, something coming from under the earth, perhaps the center of the earth. But I'm going to tell you what's the fact. Where is it coming from? And this is coming from from under the ground to the sky. Okay? And it has some features. First of all, it's spinning around itself, this phenomenon. Okay, like a funnel.
Vortex.
Like a vortex, perfect. And it has a focal point, like when you have a lens, right? So when this focal point is, oh, by the way, also it's moving. So like Earth is rotating around the Earth, Earth rotating around the sun and also spinning. This is almost the same. It is spinning and it's moving, okay? And like that. So this is a focal point. A phenomena appears and disappears. It has a certain time gap, time frame, okay, in a window. So have that in mind. When this focal appears above the sky, is different than when it appears near the earth, above in the sky and above the surface of the earth, is different than when it appears near the surface of the earth, and is different when it's under the surface of the earth and deep down. So we have like about 3-4 areas. When it appears in the top, in the sky, this focal point, it's only in certain places on the planet this was happening. So when it appears above the sky, it's spinning and it's moving. It creates hurricanes. And we have
starts them at that point and stays with them. It like births them, or it is the focal point, the center of the whirlwind the whole time.
yes, so it started from one area of a triangle.
Yeah.
It moves around in that area. That's a big triangle area. And the center of that triangle is the Bermuda Triangle. So Bermuda Triangle is a triangle inside this big triangle. Okay. So a hurricane happens. It's spinning. The focal point appears. It starts spinning and starts moving. It escalates its power at one point and de-escalates its power at one point. And it slows down until it fades out, right? And it's related to earthquakes. And it's related to other phenomena, other natural hazard phenomena like tornadoes. And it's related to volcano activities. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now,
because it's a release of this spinning pent-up energy.
Somehow.
So
yes.
I keep thinking of the Merkaba. Are you familiar with the Merkaba?
Yes, I went through that, but it's very close, but it's not exact.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very close with Merkaba. I looked at it, I read a lot of books, tried to combine and connect these things together.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
But all you said there, you know, a stationary Merkaba is different than the Earth, again, rotating around the influences of the sun, influences of other cosmic forces of other planets. And
you're getting there.
Then flux transfer events. So
yes.
Flux transfer events between the Earth and the sun happen every 8 minutes or so, and a massive amount of energy is discharged. So is that the fueling of all this dynamic motion?
Yes, Ryan, very good point. But have one thing in your mind, that we don't know everything. We don't know all the forces. We don't know the fields. We only know 4 forces yet. We know there is a gravity force, there's an electric force, there's a magnetic force, and there's a nuclear force. There's no other force that we are aware of. What if there is? And we will find it later. And that one will connect everything together. The same way that we found out that electric forces are related to magnetic forces. We didn't know that before. And so we don't know what is electric force. We don't know what's magnetic force, but we know how they manipulate with each other, right? Later on, we will find other forces, perhaps, I don't know, dark force or something, that they are also related to these ones. But my concern right now is not to go and discover another force. My study is more to find what are the relationship between and what it causes. What's the after effect? What is the consequence of these? What is the outcome? Okay. So it looks like Merkaba is very important, very interesting. And it happens not just on Earth, it happens on all the other celestial bodies in our solar system and in the cosmos. Because it is what it is. It is the way it is. But the thing is that why Merkaba is here on the planet is because the formation of the planets around the Earth, the sun, is causing that shape. If you go to another solar system, that, for example, twin system, instead of having a Merkaba with those angles, we might have a cube, okay, like the other shape. But the force is there and the effects are there, and you can see different kind of natural hazards and natural phenomena over there. Okay.
Sacred geometrical template that's set out by the sun.
Yes. But our sun here on Earth, and but their sun in there.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's come back to Earth. So this focal point, when it happens above the Earth in one distance, okay, because it's happening there, and the root of that is coming from the Earth, from under the ground. So it will cause, somehow it's related to electromagnetic fields, okay, that focal point in top. So that's why we have thunderstorms sometimes, and that also creates some, it distorts this electric field of the surface of Earth in that place, okay, and things like that. So we have certain places, certain areas, I can say, on the planet that this focal point only maneuvers. One of them is the hurricane area, which is near the Florida, centered at the Bermuda Triangle. We have another area, which is the typhoons in the other side. Those typhoons are the same as hurricanes. As a matter of fact, let me see if I have the picture of that to show you. That explains everything much more clearer, and you can see what I'm talking about and where are we going from there. Yep, here. So this is copyrighted, so I don't worry about this. This picture here shows the Bermuda Triangle and the path of one of the hurricanes. Okay, as you can see here, it enters the Bermuda Triangle parallel to the southern edge, and it comes out. As soon as it comes out, it changes its path. This is one way, and then it starts going up. This angle that goes up can be calculated, and you can find exact angle, okay? So hold on to this. Now, if you put all the tracks together on one map, this is what you come up with. This is a map of all those tracks for like about 100 years, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And you can see that there is a triangular area here near United States.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's a triangular area here near Japan. You see that?
Yeah.
And we have an oval shape here near Australia in the side, and we have another oval shape in the other side. But we don't have it other places. So if I draw those triangle areas, this is what you see.
Yeah.
You see the geometry?
Yeah.
Very easy. This is not new. This has been copyrighted in 2010.
Does anything change about like, does a hurricane always go clockwise or counterclockwise? Does where you are in the planet affect what the orientation of the center of the hurricane is?
Well, as much as I know, their directions and their actually the way they spin is pretty much the same. There might be some very exceptional scenarios that they might be different. Okay, I don't have full information about them. This is something that the meteorologists have access to the data bank, and they can take and pull out the information and look at it. The interesting thing is that when the focal point is higher, it is stronger.
When the focal point is higher, it's stronger.
Yes, it's wider. Sorry, it
has wider. More torque.
Yes, probably it has more torque. Okay. Yeah. And believe me, just believe me that I predicted some earthquakes while these hurricanes are happening. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's another book that I'm trying to write. I put some information there, and hopefully very soon I can publish that, and you can see some information. But I have a good news for you. One of these hurricanes happened last year, Hurricane Hillary. And the hurricane started in Mexico, but not in Atlantic Ocean. It happened in Pacific Ocean.
Pacific, which is the first time, right?
As you see here in the picture, you see this area?
Yeah.
This is in the Pacific Ocean. And we have a lot of hurricanes happening and a lot of storms happening in that place.
Yeah.
This is here. Okay? Not many people pay attention to that because it's far away in the ocean. And doesn't have effect on California, so we don't, to pay attention to it. But it's happening there, like that. Anyways, very interestingly, this one, the path was coming as I think it was the second day that I knew it's coming towards Las Vegas, towards Las Vegas. But actually, it was going to the center of the Nevada Triangle. So the video is in my website. I have like 2 sections, each one like 10, 20 minutes. Step by step, I showed where they started is important. And the curve. Interestingly, the curve of this Hillary hurricane was exactly on a circle. So it's
So-
not just randomly moving around for itself
Yeah,
because of the wind. No, there's geometry involved. And this is smoothly moving a little bit up and down on a circle that the center of that circle is near Houston, I think, if I remember correctly.
Hmm.
So if you put a, I don't know, draw a circle centered at near Houston, in Texas, okay? And if you go around, you will see that this is about a quarter of a circle.
but
Very
let me
interesting.
ask, why is that storm so unique? And it went
Yeah.
towards Vegas. I mean, why is that an isolated incident? If what you're saying is that it all follows patterns, why did this one wild card get out of the pattern?
Well, interesting. As I said again, you have to have this eyeglass that shows mathematics and geometry in front of you, and then you will see that. It's easy. Have you watched this movie, The Matrix?
Yes.
Yeah, I know you're gonna like it. So in
course.
the movie Matrix, at the end, everything was like zeros and one coming down.
Yeah.
Okay, he saw that. Whatever he was seeing was that. Somehow, after a while, when you practice these things and you go through the numbers, you will see these things. You can predict it earlier. But to let you know is that this circle at 2 of 3 points came out and went back in to its position.
Hmm.
And so it looks like there was a force that causes this hurricane to push it a little bit inside the area or pull it out or push it out. Those spots are related to the Bermuda Triangle.
Interesting.
The location of the centers of those places. These are all new information. And as a matter of fact, I just put it over there because I wanted to publish this information before it hits Las Vegas. Okay. More calculation shows that it was going towards the center of this area called the Nevada Triangle. Okay. When after it was moving, I could draw a more accurate circle, and I can come up with a more accurate center, and it gave me a more accurate path, right? So I knew it's going there, but I knew it was going to there, and I knew it's not going to hit the center of the Nevada Triangle, because you see this picture here? You see the border that I wrote, the yellow line?
The line, yeah, crossing through the US Southwest.
Yes, that passes a little bit behind the Nevada Triangle. So hurricanes do not pass that. It's not just going all the way up to Canada. No, it stops and
Right.
fades out.
Right.
And it's not based on the terrain of how the earth is. The land and the waters are actually created. No, it has nothing to do with the air. It has nothing to do with the wind. There is a force from under the ground that is moving that focal point. Okay. When the
But under the ground, and it's connecting with the sky, right? So this is a electromagnetic or biomagnetic, some kind of an exchange.
Yes,
That is a
you're
circle,
getting it.
basically.
You're getting it. So just draw a line from the center of the earth all the way up to the focal point, and it's a little bit like a cone shape, okay, and it's rotating. Okay, and the cone is the opposite. So from the surface of the earth to the sky, the cone is getting wider, and the tiny part of it is on the ground. So when this happening, when the hurricane happens, it starts and it ends, and that force is there. Okay, when the focal point is a little bit lower and near the surface of the earth, we have tornadoes, but this don't happen everywhere. It only happens in certain areas. Same. And it's like an oval shape, like some sort like this shape. You see the oval shape here?
Yeah.
Half of it is inside the United States, and that's the area. And it's exactly, you can split the whole United States land into 2 pieces, left and right. And the eastern side of it is where these tornadoes are happening. Interestingly, same as hurricanes, that they have season, tornadoes have hours. They usually happen in a specific season and something like afternoon, like it's about 2-3 p.m. all the way to 8-9 p.m. And interestingly, the interesting fact is that they only last like about 2-3 minutes all the way to like maximum 20 minutes. And they have same direction almost. So it has nothing to do with the wind. The wind affects it minor, it has a minor effect, not that much, okay? So this focal point is somehow cannot come all the way up to the sky to create a hurricane. So it's a little bit lower, but when it's lower, it happens in this kind of areas, okay? It has nothing to do with the shape of the mountains, the terrain of the land. No, it's only the force is coming from under the ground and it's spinning and it's moving. But the life is so short, it's like maximum like about 20 minutes. It's usually like about 10 minutes and just roughly just talking, okay? And the structure is the same as a hurricane. But you can see that there's the funnel shape reveals itself much easier. And when the focal point is closer to the earth, it's a little bit different and it's a little bit higher, okay? You can see that the wind causes the funnel to move around a little bit, okay? But those are the minor effects from the wind and some other meteorology actually effects and some earth science things that is there. So now we're getting close to earthquake. When the focal point comes to the surface of it, let me talk about it. When it comes to the surface of Earth or a little bit lower, that's where the soil under that area, if it has water, starts moving. So there's a mass of energy. There's nothing physical. It's a mass of invisible energy. It starts rotating and it's affecting the water, okay, of that land in that area. And when it's rotating, it's also moving. So that's why we have tectonic plates, because one section is moving while the other section of the land is not moving, right? So it causes a crack. And during millions of years, you can see that this crack is obvious now. Now you can have this, we have the fault, all the lines, and that's how it creates specific places, and we call it ring of fire. Now, the ring of fire and these kind of places that earthquakes usually happen, it has nothing to do with anything else. The only fact is the focal point in that area is affecting. Now, if those rocks slide over each other, okay, what happens? Two of the rocks, or three rocks, when they slide, the friction between two layers of plates, okay, somehow when they jump over each other, they release that energy and it causes the earthquake. Most of the time we have a swarm of earthquake because the land of that area is moving. It's not just 1.1 effect, no. The land in that area under the pressure of that focal point is causing the land to move and spin and go. If you look at NASA and USGS maps, you can see that the direction of these places, how it works. So we have two layers of tectonic plates, okay? Yeah. If the force is in one side, so it causes this layer to move. If it's the force is in the other side, it causes the other surface or other tectonic plate to move, just in that area. If you remember, I told you that the power is coming from the earth. It's coming up. So it's a column of power. And somehow all the forces are involved, including electric and including gravity and including magnetic. That's why in that area, you have sometimes some kind of electromagnetic anomalies. Like sometimes some people report that before the earthquake happens, you can see the sky is lit, is light, there's light over there. Or you can hear some things because the earth is vibrating. And things, or you can see that the birds and animals that start running away. Yeah. What are they
infrasound?
What is happening is that the animals don't see anything or they don't hear anything and they don't, it has nothing to do with the vibration of earth. They feel that power, they feel that what's it called? The focal point is creating, it's coming up.
It's building up from the earth, you're saying, and they sense it. So when you're describing this, I couldn't help but think of the way cells work in absorbing water. So the water molecule, the receptor on the cell surface, the water molecule actually has to spin into it to fit, because the normal size, it actually goes through a state change when the water molecule, my understanding, goes in proximity to the cell. It actually spins to be sucked in.
Very interesting.
And then I'm thinking, like, planets must communicate. Planets are alive. So is what's happening a buildup of a periodic communication between celestial bodies, and what we're seeing as a hurricane or an earthquake is a conduit of communication. And as you're saying, all the forces are activated, gravity, electromagnetic, who knows what else. It's all being activated. Is this our planet communicating? Is that what happens on the surface of the body of the celestial orb when our planet goes to another planet?
Very good question. Very good question. Let me say, because I studied about these things and all these questions in this 30 years of studying, curiosity, I can tell, come up. So I have these questions in my mind.
Mhm.
Is there a relationship between what's happening on Earth and other planets? We have earthquakes. Does other planets have earthquakes the same? We have hurricanes. The other ones have. The answer is yes. We have earthquake on Earth. We have moonquake on Moon. We have hurricanes on Earth. We don't have such a vivid like that on Moon, but we have it on other planets, other gas form planets, like the red spot on Jupiter.
Yeah.
Now, are you ready to see something very fascinating?
Yes.
We have a red spot on Jupiter, but we have other spots. We have, what was the name? We have the Neptune's dark spot, okay, which is, there's a picture also of that. It's on, and we have a dark spot on Saturn, okay? And it creates, and we have pictures of that. Let me
But
show
when
you.
you say dark spot on Saturn, you're not talking about the hexagon.
No. The hexagon is in the northern part.
Okay.
So this is Jupiter. This is the red spot on Jupiter.
Right.
This is the rectangular map of Jupiter. And we have an equator, and we have that all the dimensions or the coordinates of the hurricane, which is happening on Jupiter, right? This is, you can see that. Okay, it has a height and it has a width. Let me show you a picture of Saturn. This is the dark in Saturn. This is the dark one in Saturn.
Yeah.
Okay. These are all copyrighted in 2010. And then,
why is it dark? Do you have any idea why it's dark? Usually
it's light. We don't have that much light over there.
Okay.
Jupiter is closer to sun than those planets, right? And when they took a picture, I think the camera that they used to take a picture to have a more vivid, actually, contrast, they use a black and white camera. That's what I think. Okay.
So if you were looking at it directly, it wouldn't be dark. It would be bright.
Yeah, it might be a different color. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
And there's another picture of Saturn, right in the center. You see that?
Okay. Yeah, kind of.
It looks like swirling, like the same thing in Jupiter. But now I'm going to show you something. There's a big crater on Moon, the largest crater on Moon. Okay, it's called the moon spot, something like that. It's very vivid. You can see it by telescope. It's a little bit in the northern hemisphere of the Moon. Okay, all these spots are in the northern hemisphere except Jupiter's. The Jupiter's red spot is in the southern part. Okay, is in the southern hemisphere of Jupiter. Now, if I flip this, if I just flip it and bring it to the north, I can come up with a very nice, interesting picture. This is the Earth. This is the Bermuda Triangle. This is, what's it called?
So if you all the planets are rectangles here, and you're showing that the
Yes.
vortex appears equally in the spheres at the same
Yes, I just cut
coordinates.
those sections. I'm going to show it again. I just cut those sections,
Mhm.
but I know that this from southern point of that planet to the northern point,
Mhm.
I somehow balance their align their coordinates. Okay, and this map are not by me. The maps are from by NASA. You can go to the website and get the map. Okay, so this is the moon's crater. This is the Jupiter, and this is the Neptune, right? And this one here is the Dragon's Triangle. And I show them here how their coordinates, I mean, from their latitudes from the equator is the same.
Well, is it the ratio or the actual like 23.5 degrees or the ratio? Yeah.
Ratio.
Right.
Although Jupiter is way bigger than Earth and way bigger than Moon, but you can see that the ratios are the same.
Yeah, it matches. Which
So
brings me back to the Merkaba, making it look like
now you get it.
Yeah.
That's why I couldn't explain in that time. I had to give more, feed you with some more information.
Right.
So this is copyrighted and that. So it's not just happening on Earth, it's happening elsewhere. All the other celestial bodies, as much information as I have, I could come up with these things. Okay. Right. So now we are connecting the gravity of Moon that pulled that, I don't know, what was it, the object that hit that Moon in that time. So this crater, okay, is not just out of nowhere, suddenly something comes in, a comet or something comes and hits the Moon, right? From long distance, the mathematics of the universe somehow attracts it. The gravity of Moon and Earth and everything else combined together,
right,
tracks it, pulls that object to come towards the Moon from that specific angle. Mm-hmm. So it's not just randomly something just hits up. There's a lot of actually sophisticated mathematics involved. We are just not even scratching the surface of this information. I'm just finding the clues and I'm trying to put these pieces together. But what revealed is that my hypothesis that there's forces coming from under the ground tells me that it's actually not coming from the center of the ground, but from the other side of the world is coming from the outcome of the forces of the celestial objects in our solar system. So all of them, the combination of their gravity forces, electromagnetic fields,
as they line up, they connect and they exchange or discharge or balance. So again, thinking of maybe static electricity sitting there on a doorknob, when things align, it connects, and then there's the exchange of energy of some kind. So we know that we download flux transfer events from the sun. So we're probably transmitting or sending something out.
We are constantly. While they are doing it's like a shaking hand at the same time, simultaneously. They are affecting us, we are affecting them. The good one point is that when these forces are affecting constantly, so Earth is moving, right? Spinning and moving. And also from the other side, Moon is constantly moving. And the whole solar system is moving around the sun, and the whole sun with all its objects and all the celestial objects is moving, including the Trojan, actually, things, everything is moving, right?
Right.
So that's why this focal point is also moving. But it's not just one focal point at a time. There are multiple focal points at the same time happening, okay? But some of them are more effective than the other ones. Some of them are more powerful. So when the focal point changes and goes to an area and it appears and disappears, if an object enters that environment or enters in that will get affected. So most of these focal points, when it's above the earth, above the ocean or above the land, doesn't matter, is affecting in those areas, which is mostly in Bermuda Triangle and mostly in that environment, or you see that.
But there's others. There's the M Triangle in Russia. Are you familiar with the M Triangle?
Yeah, there are other ones. Then we have Alaska Triangle.
The interesting thing, they say, the legend goes that in the M Triangle, people have gone there and left with a higher intelligence, higher IQ. So
Yes.
maybe it is an energetic emission point where when you're standing in that it blasts your whatever consciousness.
So this is the point that I wanted to bring up. Well, I didn't talk about it, but you just brought it up.
Sorry.
What happens if this focal point is on the surface, exactly on the surface? Let me explain. If it's a little bit lower the surface, we have swirls.
We have what?
The swirls in the ocean that the
Oh,
water
whirlpools. Yeah.
Whirlpools.
Yeah.
I said swirls, sorry.
Yeah. It's okay. I get it.
Too much vocabulary, right?
Yeah.
This whirlpools happening. Okay. We also have tornadoes in the ocean. It's not just happening on land. Totally. Interesting. Anyways, so when that happened, it is because it's not that much strong. Remember, I told you when it goes higher, stronger. When it's coming over, so what that happens is that environment is somehow get affected or in exchange with that power. So usually, let me show you this picture to help you understand a little bit better of what I want to say first. Now look at this map of Earth.
Yeah.
Why some areas are green, the other areas are not, are brown? Is the effect of this force on the water. So we have forests in the other sides while we don't have it in the other sides. No matter what you do, water will escape. Somehow it's pushing away the water. Okay. And the people there they're containers of 60 to 70% water. So when we are there, this force is affecting the water inside us, which is circulating inside our body and affects our brain and affects our thoughts. So you become wiser or you become dumber or whatever you want to name it. Okay. You might be good in some stuff while you're weak in other stuff. There was in Russia, I heard an article, I was reading an article that there was a highway and a section of that highway, we have a lot of traffic, we have a lot of accidents. This highway is straight. For years and years, the scientists tried to figure it out. I hope I can find that, the source of that. I somehow lost, I was trying to find it, I couldn't find it. So just this is the story that they could not find out what's the difference between this section of this highway and a little bit further or a little bit before. They couldn't find the difference. Lately, after that, they found out that under that road, under that highway, is a river. So now it explains why somehow when that focal point is affecting on the surface over there, due to the existence of the water, it escalates. And the people somehow...
Is it the crossing of water or just water? Because usually it's the crossing.
It's a crossing.
Yeah.
So while there's cars are moving, like you're driving, suddenly you don't feel good.
You get messed up.
Yes, exactly.
So
this also happens in the airplanes.
Yeah.
Pilots that are driving, they somehow get crazy and they commit suicide. Also, this, let me bring up things. Okay, let me bring it up. You know this Emily Earhart?
Emily Earhart that flew across, yes.
Pacific Ocean?
Yes.
So that is a specific location that happened to her. And also happened to other people, but they don't know. So there were people that they were trying to look for her. They couldn't find her. And from the other side, she and her actually navigator over there could not find them. So there's somehow their mental effect over there. There's a mental disorienting something happening over there. Okay, the time rhymes and the location is aligned with what I have found in this book.
So have you ever? It's fascinating. Have you overlaid the megalithic sites and ley lines with your discoveries? And what have you found in relation to
amazing things? Amazing things. You know, you're asking a question that is very general, then I have to talk a lot to explain that.
To answer.
It's a dead end question. It's not a yes or no answer, so I can just say yes and just. I'm not a good speaker, so I'm sorry if I cannot explain it very well.
You're
My
doing
apologies.
wonderful.
I'm
Go ahead.
just like to just read books and do my own actually studies, but
You're
this is my
teaching the
first time
world
that I'm
a lot
doing.
right now, Sean. I greatly respect your information and appreciate it. You're coming across very articulate and wise. So you're
Thank you
doing
so
great.
much for that. I really appreciate that.
No problem.
Yes, I checked. Let me tell you one thing before I say that. Again, there's a pre-knowledge that we need to discuss it, so we are in the same page. As I said, the mathematics is the language of the universe in nature. The first question is this: do we belong to nature or not? Are we a part of a nature? So you can see that a lot of birds, for example, they build their nests in specific places, or other animals like ants. They build their actually colony, their houses and everything else under the ground in a specific formation, right? And they have their own method of communication.
Yes.
We have our own method of communication, which doesn't rhyme with other ones, other animals. We have our own. They have their own, we have our own, okay? Don't you think that the way that we build our houses, the places that we pick to build our houses and our cities and our actually villages are somehow related mathematically to other places?
I think our cities are. I don't
Even the
know that
small
the way
ones.
we do urban planning these days is relating to that. It's more like a grid like this. But
Yes.
you're right. Initially, yeah, I would say
But they
definitely.
don't have right angles like the one that you have, the beautiful panel you have behind you.
Right.
Is this from China? Because we have something similar to this
It
when we
is.
were in Hong Kong,
Yeah.
and it's beautiful, by the way.
It's a Suji screen. Yeah.
So yeah, I remember when I was living in Hong Kong, going back to for to school, we're driving by the bus was driving by Bruce Lee's actually house, and it has like some kind of windows and things that like amazing.
Yeah.
You just brought those things up, flashback.
Wonderfully brilliant man, Bruce Lee, as well.
Yes, it's
What
one
a
of.
character. Taught me a lot.
So I met a person that his last name was Lee, like about 3 years ago. And I say, hey, your last name reminds me of my idol that I really, when I was younger, I'm still actually like his philosophy and the way he said. And he said, oh, you're talking about Bruce Lee? He's my uncle. I said, what? Because I
He's
believe that,
bullshitting you.
yes, I'm shaking, you know.
Yeah.
I watched this movie a lot, many times. But anyways, even that's why nothing is accidental. That's what I believe. There's mathematics at least involved, but
Synchronous.
other things involved. But we are not in that level of knowledge or science or technology to understand what are these relationships.
Mhm.
So if we are there, we can find it. That's what. That's why all the people in the astrology are working on. 2 years or 2 courses about astrology. And I found out that it's not complete because we don't calculate all the objects in our universe. We only go with the big ones.
Mhm.
So I found out, I figured out there in that time. So I said, until then, we have to actually just play with it. That's why it's not very accurate. If we calculate all the other objects around us with their speed and the distances and the angles, we can probably eventually come up with a pattern that you can predict what's going to happen in a few days.
And that's where AI would be useful
Exactly.
in assisting humanity in doing those very complex calculations and looking at the universe and figuring out what the different relationships are, right? That would be let's get an AI astrologer. I'm down with that.
It
I don't
is
want AI
actually.
God. I want it to be an astrologer.
Yeah, definitely. We are going that way. There are people working on it. I was trying to actually come up with some thing like this, but my hands to the accurate information was so short. Just imagine, I'm in Iran. I only have some few books, talking about astrology, astronomy, and their masses and their angles, and I didn't have software, anything. So I had that in my mind that eventually, if I can have access to a database that not only tells me the exact mass of each one of these objects in our solar system, but also tells me their angle, the speed, and the movement, and I can align them with my movement and with other astrological things. For example, they found out that every 11 years, when the sunspots are changing, somehow the people on Earth's mood changes.
Yeah.
And also, you heard that every 11 years, 11 or 12 years, if I'm not mistaken, 11 and a half years, the Nile River changes. The Nile rivers, the volume of water changes. So these are the things that they found out. So you can see now the relationship between all the masses and the water on Earth. And this is all beside the tide, the effect of moon gravity on Earth. This is beside that. Okay, there's much more involved into it. Anyways, there are a lot of things that we can talk about, but the thing is that I was going to talk about this a little bit.
Shah, 1 second. Before we continue, just because you touched on the Nile and all those things, what about the magnetic poles of the Earth and the assorted planets that have all been flipping poles? How is that going to affect your calculations? And
a lot.
Are you seeing it?
Yes, yes. I recently, because the conversation goes that way, and so I just wanted to say to him, I found some relationships between the movement of this North Magnetic Pole with this famous Rendlesham Forest UFO incident.
Wow. Well, tell us about that. How does that connect?
So as you see that I went way far from my researchers, but eventually section by section, in a way that people can understand and follow this path, I'm releasing them in a book. Why I'm releasing it in a book? Because we all studied and we are much more familiar with the papers, and we can see these things. Based on the books that I did, then now I can come up with some videos and some animations and things like that, right? So that's why I'm releasing them one by one and getting there. But the main concept comes back to this hypothesis that I have, that the rotation of the planets, the mechanical actually movement of these celestial objects, according to their mass, their speed, everything else, all the physical things, are causing these natural phenomena, including human phenomena, also including paranormal phenomena. Now, this is where I wanted to bring up to answer your question that you asked earlier, and I didn't have an answer in that time, but now you can see. So the movement of this mechanical, the mechanical movements of these objects in our solar system, even the tiniest one, it has a minor effect, but there is an effect. Also, when you are on the planet and you have transportations, airplanes are moving around. These are objects, they have huge masses. When you have a spacecraft going to the sky, this is a mass. All these masses, the movement of them, we need a supercomputer to calculate them, is causing these natural phenomena to occur. I found footprints, and I can, with a good estimate, I can come up with some predictions, but not accurate, not very accurate. But I know I'm doing it right. Okay. Well, this perspective, this point of view that I have and I came up with, is not combining only a few dots together. It's the whole thing. It's very general. When you look at it from outside, then you can go all the way down to the smallest grain, to the small thing, and pinpoint it right over there. Okay? So if I tell you that there are 4 aviation incidents, 4 of them so far I found, that they are very alike, their situation, and exactly they all 4 happened the same thing to them. The time, their other stuff. Let me give you one of them. Air France 447. I think it was 2009 that it disappeared in the Atlantic Ocean. That's it, right? Just disappeared. 2 years later, they found a place. So have that in mind. So the airplane was traveling, there was a thunderstorm, and somehow the communication got lost, and it crashed into the ocean. Later on, when they found the black box, they found out that it not only stalled down, also turned to the left. Okay, have that in mind. Now, in the other side, I have 2 more examples of 2 more aviation incidents alike. Then I found the 4th one. The 4th one was, you know this very well, the Malaysia airline that disappeared in 2014, March, I think. Interestingly, this is a homework you can do. Their altitude were almost the same. the latitude from the equator are the same. And not just this, there are more things. They both turned to left and stalled. So the behavior was the same. And there are other stuff involved. I will bring it up because I'm writing that book right now. I'm in like chapter 4 or 5. I know what is going on, but I'm just trying to writing it down, and I need time. You remember I talked about the work, life, and
juggling. Yeah.
so I need to be an octopus. So each hand does something.
You need a clone.
I need a clone, exactly. So yes, all 4 of them happened the same. All 4 of them. And interestingly, all 4 of them had some sort of seismic activity underneath them. That proves to me that there was a force coming from the ground to up. The time
they were just unlucky enough to be caught at the time that this energy was being transferred, and it fried them.
And when I found one more thing that I found, I just closed the book. I said, oh my God, it's too much above me. I found that the earthquakes are related to each other. I found the mathematical relation, right? All 4 of them. So what do you think now? So interesting, very interesting. Like when this Air France happened, there is a satellite image of all the clouds around them in that area, the aviation wise, right? We have storms around. They all create a very nice shape, mathematical shape, centered at where the airplane disappeared.
Wow.
The airplane was there. It has nothing to do with the airplane. This phenomena is happening. Unlucky, the airplane was there.
So,
okay.
Yeah. I have to ask you, because you've talked about Apollo 11, you've talked about basically conduits that are opening up. So we have to talk about stargates now. Because Apollo 11, I believe that there was technology that got us to the moon. We do have the Van Allen belt issue, where there's so much radiation there that without some kind of a conduit or some kind of, like, I spoke with Patrick Riley the other day. He was talking about using ultraviolet energy to push through. Basically, it pushes everything out of the way. So instead of a friction base like a submarine going through the water and experiencing friction, it pushes it out of the way like in a bubble in front of it, so that it doesn't have that friction, it can move faster, right? So when they say that we sent spaceships up to the moon, we haven't explained the Van Allen belt. Is what you're saying possibly the explanation, that if they can identify the coordinates from when these conduits are going to open up, that might actually be like a highway through the Van Allen belt to get to the other side? Is that what these stargates, is it a stargate that you're defining and finding?
I have a book under writing right now. It's about Stargate.
Okay.
Oh my God. Now, you see, your questions are very complete. So it's not a yes or no answer. So let me put it this way. If you're interested in that, take a look at the video is on my website that I had a speech at Nevada MUFON. My friend over there, Chris Jones, is very nice, very open-minded, very talented person. And I've been dealing with Nevada MUFON since 2010, 11. I'm a member of MUFON since 2011, 12, 13. And I'm always fascinated about this. I met a lot of people. And on my website, you can see their pictures. I see as much as I have.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
So those people, I've met them, somehow talk with them. I don't just go travel all the way to just meet them. It's just a point of me to connect those mathematical relations with each other.
Right.
You know what I mean? The ones that I talked about.
Yeah.
So things like that. Very nice people, very intelligent people, very good people like George Knapp, people like Travis Davis, people like, you name it, they're all there. Okay. Eric Van Daniken, for example, amazing. The Chariot of the Gods and all those books would open my mind.
Yeah.
A lot of these things, I try to go into them because I want to affect the mathematical relationships between the people around. I have my own philosophy that it's not just I'm sitting here talking to you. There is something involved. So nothing is accidental, that you just communicate with me and I'm communicating with you, just accidentally, hey, let's have a drink and bye-bye. No, there's a lot more inside it, okay? We sometimes understand a portion of it and we think we're very smart. We are not even close to that. There's far beyond that. More I study, more I think. The lane lines that you were talking about is the line of those places that those people come off, and it's on one line. This book here, Shah's Mystic, talks about this. So this is the Persian version of it. I brought the Farsi translated. I don't have the English one here. So it's called Sha'Z Square. It talks about those ley lines and how they are related to each other. So the book that I had, the black book, is two sections. One section is how our ancestors knew something to correlate the structures with each other through distance and angles. So we talked about the Ziggurats. I studied a lot about the Ziggurats. Why those native people out of nowhere decided to build a temple in a desert somewhere, that there's no water, there's no tree, there's no mountain, nothing. Why? And why the structures are in that form, why they're building in a square form, like in a rectangular form. And for example, in Ziggurat of Ur, there's a long stairway in front of it that people go there. We have the same situation, same building in Ziggurat of Dur. Both of them are in Iraq, but the directions are in different side of that rectangle. Interestingly, when you draw the line from Ziggurat of Dur all the way to Ziggurat of Ur and down, the stairways are on that line. And then when you go to Ziggurat of Ur, so I said, okay, let me follow this. Let me go with the same distance. I came up with another ziggurat, which is the most important ziggurat, I believe, in Iran, which is called Ziggurat of Chogazambe. And then I said, okay, these are three parts of the same distance, corners of almost the same distance. Maybe there's another one, the fourth one. And I found out the fourth one exactly of that with almost 90 degrees, but this one is not a ziggurat. It's a place in the mountain that's been carved by the order of the king of Iran in that time, the Persia king. And it's called, what's it called, Takbostan. I've been there. You see how these are rhymed and connecting to each other?
Yeah, totally.
If you connect these four dots together, these are the four corners of a big, like, square kind of shape, okay? Which I call the Sha'Z Square because a lot of amazing things are happening there. Nobody looked at it because of the political issues that's happening in Iran and Iraq and those things, the war and everything. Everybody is focusing on the political part of that area. That area is far beyond politics, okay? It's a lot of scientific, actually, places. We have the Battery of Baghdad over there found, okay? That they found. They have,
familiar with it.
They have a lot of Anunnaki, actually, documents over there found.
Yeah. Right. And what you were saying about the ziggurats, I think that's an important factor with regard to warfare, because this was one of the first things that the U.S. troops did when they conquered Iraq, is that they secured the ziggurats and were taking out all kinds of archaeology. They also in 2005 said they found the tomb of Gilgamesh, which is incredible because that verifies the legend, the mythology, but actually is real history. And then that story went dark until it was found in Hillary Clinton's emails where she was asking or mentioning something about it. Now we have these ziggurats that you're talking about, and the most important one being in Iran. These are the remaining unconquered, unexcavated ziggurats that are in Iran right now. Do you think that has something to do possibly with some of the conflict scenarios?
A lot. I don't think that our governments, I respect our government and also the secrecy that he's doing, not revealing the information. I somehow like it, to be honest with you. You're a teacher. Do you tell everything that happens to the students? No. Do you think the principal tells everything to the teachers?
You have to teach to their level.
Yes, they just give the information as much as that person should know, okay? Just to cause a lot of things. So there are information that they have that they're not spreading around among the population, among the people, right? So just as a respect, if you trust the principal, if you trust the government, if different things, then you understand, then it's much more easier. Why? Because you know they found something that they're not revealing. Instead of challenging, if you accept, then that opens the doors a lot, okay? But if you challenge, if you fight, it's going to cause a lot of chaos and problems. So there are information that in different level that they have access to and they got it. It's not just go and occupy one location. There are information related to that place. A portion of it, a section of that relation can be related to the objects that they found over there. Okay, but what if beside object, there are other things? First of all, Iraq, the Ziggurats are near the two rivers of Nile, the Nile rivers over there. There was not the Nile, sorry, forgot their names.
Tigris and Euphrates.
Yes, okay. So that's why we call it Bainul Nahrain in Iran. In Farsi means that between two, there are rivers. We just talked about water. So it's a dry land, and suddenly we have two rivers there. The effect of those rivers on the people are important, should be considered. And then we have the Persian Gulf, or whatever they name it, from this side, and we have the other side. In the top, we have this Caspian Sea, and in the left side, we have the Turkish, what's it called, the Mediterranean, right? These are waters, and then we have, so these are huge amount of money, three of them, three big water sources. And the Middle East is right between these three, and we have two gigantic actually rivers moving on. So that area, according to water and land, is important. That's one part. So the people of that area also, because of the waters that they have in their body, somehow they think differently. I don't know why. I'm not saying they're scientists, I'm not saying anything. But the only thing I know is that they think differently than the people who are Eskimos and they live in North Pole.
So can I add something there? Because I know there's been studies of primary water. So there are some areas where these populations drink primary water and they have higher IQs.
Yeah.
So one of them is, I believe it's Bucharest. Is it Bucharest? Maybe I'm screwing it up. It's somewhere in Eastern Europe. And I know that the source, I think, of the rivers that go through the Middle East are in Turkey, in like Mount Ararat region, that kind of area, right?
Yes.
And it actually flows down there. So the question would be, is that a primary water source? And is that why it's such an effect of?
Yes, there are actually, very good point. Another thing is that you don't forget about the underground sources of water that we have. There are a huge amount. I think they found a big one in Africa. They found a big source of water in actually Lebanon. Is in that area. These are effects that affects our intelligence, affects our nerves, affects our biological actually organs. Okay, and when those things affects, it affects our brain. Okay, so have that in mind. One other question: why all the prophets that the religion-wise are in that area? That's another good question. Okay, why they believe in these things? Okay, why not in other places? There's only in that area. This is a very good, and I came up with a circle. I named it Shah's Circle. Okay, and I just named it Shah's Circle. And then I came up with another area which is triangle. I call it Shah's Triangle. So, but that's, you have to know the basics to get there, the basic information. So that's why this first book, the black one, is called Shah's Square. And I start from there to eventually transfer the information and the connections in between them to reveal those areas, and how those areas not only are related to human activities, but also related to was it landmark, actually landscape, actually marks and places like mountains and things like that, the deepest part of the ocean, things that the highest part of the mountains. These are specific landscapes, specific spots that they are important when you go to geometry on the earth. Okay, the geomathematics about the earth. Okay, these are all related to each other. Fascinating, very fascinating. Just to give you a little bit, just a bonus, because I know you're so curious right now. Let me give you one. Rendlesham Forest. Are you interested in that?
Yes. So let's hear about that. How is that related to the other triangle?
So before I talk about UFO, this section is UFOs. Okay, a section is not the whole thing, but a section of the Rendlesham Forest depends on UFO. UFO is not the main thing over there in that story, although it's the title is Rendlesham Forest UFO incidents. Okay, I talked about it with Mr. Nick Pope, and we signed an NDA several years ago when he was in this seminar here in Las Vegas.
Wow.
I told him that I have some information, but I'm going to just spill a little bit. And he said, okay, go on. But you need to sign this, to be honest with you, sincere. And he's very, very intelligent, very open-minded, very friendly. I cannot tell enough about him. Very nice person. Very nice. I found him very easy to talk to. Very, very intelligent, very smart, and very, very nice person. I hope to see him soon again. Very nice. I have some questions. Anyways, I revealed some information over there to him, but not this section that I'm talking right now. So now let's talk about this. Before I talk about that, let me talk about the highest technology that we have in transportation. It's airplanes, right? Just imagine. Do we just build our airport just everywhere? Or we have specific facts and specific measurements that we need to take care of first to calculate to see if that location is worth it to actually build an airport, right?
Sure.
And then which direction you want to put the airport field, right?
Yeah.
So then when the airplane is there, he wants to fly, what are the things that concerns them? One of them is the wind. What other things?
Weather.
Weather and wind.
Rain.
Rain, perfect. So this is like
Potential hostiles.
yes. Also
Engine
gravity.
trouble. DEI hires. Oh my God. There's a whole list of them. Is it a Boeing?
And one of the things you want to know is what's the mass, because if you're heavier, then you have less turbulence and these kind of things, right?
Yes.
So what else? You see, we only have so far to go. You know,
There's a list, yeah,
that we have to tick mark. And what is the path? What is the latitude or elevation that we want to cruise? Okay, these are the things that are concerns. So we are intelligent. What if a bird wants to fly? He doesn't have that much intelligence that we have. If he feels good, he just flies. If it doesn't feel good, it don't fly, right? That's it. Even simpler than that. So imagine we as a bird and another entity much more smaller than us as a human. What do you think they will measure before they fly their vehicles? Okay, put yourself into their position now. So I was looking at strange things that we are not considering. They might consider. We are not. They might. They might. I'm just hypothetically trying to just go and find something. So I found two of the highest mountains on our planet. One of them is Mount Everest, right? We know that.
Yeah.
So Mount Everest is in the Asia, it's in the Tibet and those areas. The other side of the world, we have in Alaska, we have Denali. And Denali is strange because suddenly out of nowhere, this volcano rises up. Okay. The distance of these two mountains to random shield forest is the same.
So it's a triangulation point, like an open gateway. So what you were inferring is that for these guys to jump, they need an open port, like in a
I'm getting there.
Okay,
I'm getting there. Then the angle is about 90 degrees. How cool is that?
Wow.
Then
Yeah.
if you fly on a satellite right above this random shield forest, you can see both of these mountains are on the edge of the earth from that perspective.
Wow.
So when you draw a circle, that circle is going to be exactly on the edge of the earth from that perspective, like this shape. I'm just giving you maybe 2 pages of my 150 pages that I found.
And do you get into who did the jump? Because didn't they say they were from High Brazil or something like that? Or they said they were either forward or backward in time, no?
So there is also earthquakes involved. Also, on that time, the first day, I don't want to confuse you, give you information that confuses you. The same day, that the first event happened, two events happened, right? The first day that they went and they touched their UFO, a volcano activity appeared in the other side of Earth, in Central America.
Interesting.
Now you can connect these things together and you find out that, hey, it's not just a UFO was there and we touched it. No, it's why the UFO was there? It was not there to tell, hey, I'm here. Come take a picture of me, cheese. No. They were doing their own actually investigations, their own actually stuff, their own measurements. Only if they're more intelligent than him. Okay. I am not saying that they are intelligent. They're not. I'm not saying nothing. I cannot prove anything. I was not there. And I don't have any evidence, physical evidence, anything. But if the story is not true, so we don't have anything to think about, right? It's a lie, like many other stories. But if the story is true, I mean, black and white, if it's not true, or if it's absolutely true. If the story is absolutely true, then there are things involved that our regular science does not pay attention to that. Now that with the research I've done, now a lot of things are opening up. Now you see that it's not just somebody went over there and saw a UFO. The UFO did not even care about the people or had a very minor care. It was there because of a specific scientific research that they were doing. Okay. And one of them is that location is special. I call these special locations as special locations, special natural places. It's in my white book. Okay. So I'm just giving you a hint of you cannot know these information, you cannot understand them or digest them before you go to this book and this book. So these are, I'm trying to put them in a sequence, and one by one, when you read them, you can understand the correlations between them. And then as information tiles up, then it's easier for me to tell you, hey, remember this? This is what's happening here. Remember that? This is what's happening here. Okay, it's much easier. Okay, so right now you can understand a little bit that the ley lines are true, but it's based on what humans are doing, not based on nature, and has nothing to do with the UFOs and other stuff. Okay, this is what humans are building and what they're doing. Most of them, not all of them.
Okay.
And the other thing is that you mentioned is that Ziggurats, the people in that time, they came up with, according to the ley lines or the other measurements that they have, they came up with these areas to build that structure in not just in that location, but in that specific shape. So they knew something. You know, in our daily life, when we wake up, we have to brush our teeth, take a shower, or, you know, take care of our things, go to work, come back home, watch a TV, play with our cell phones, and these are normal life. Go back in time, in like 3,000 years ago, when they were building Ziggurat of Ur, for example. What were they thinking? They don't have these things. What was they worried of was about this sheep was giving a birth to another sheep, and now we have this cow is what's it? Anyways, the regular life, right? And suddenly they came up with the idea that they have to build a structure, a gigantic structure in that place with that sophisticated mathematical, actually architectural, way. Okay, and they're all the same.
Okay, but can we play What Would Eric von Daniken Say? Because he'd say that it was the Anunnaki, right?
Yeah, probably. He has a lot of research that I respect. I think everybody should. Okay, I think that's my idea, because this is what science is going, giving you the information. You either like it or you don't like it. 2 + 2 is 4. Numbers don't lie.
Yeah,
so
whatever the intention was for them to build it, they certainly did, and they certainly chose that shape for a particular reason.
Now, let me tell you one thing. Ready for this?
Yeah.
I think it's the second chapter. So, Ziggurat of Jugazambir, okay, in Iran. It's not exactly east, west, north, south. While they knew east, west, north, south. Why they knew? Because the Egyptian pyramids in Giza, okay, in Egypt platform, okay, over there, is exactly, precisely east-west, north-south. Okay, so they knew it. Why
Yes.
they didn't build it exactly, but they was a little bit tilted? The same angles almost is the ziggurat of Ur. The same angle is ziggurat of Chogazambi. Dur. All three of them, they're tilted or rotated a little bit, the same shape. Hold on. I found other structures in Iran. Persia. I'm not saying Iran because I live there. No, I was born there, yes, luckily. But I'm just saying that area. That they're also tilted the same angles. For example, Cyrus the Great, okay, the building that they built to bury Cyrus the Great is the same. For example, there's the structure over there, very old structure called, what's it called? Kaba Zartusht. In Farsi, we say Kabe Zartusht, okay? The Kaba of Zartusht is a place that they go and worship, right? And that is also not left, right, not south, north, and east, west. It's also tilted the same way. And also we have other structures. They are the same. Very interestingly, although they've been built in different era and different locations by different people, but the angles are the same. Interestingly, what I found is that they have the same shape as the big Sha'Z Square. So the big Sha'Z Square that connects these four places together is also tilted the same way. And the distance between Tak Bostan to Mecca is the same as Tak Bostan to Egyptian pyramid. Same distance. The angles are also the same. They're like isosceles triangle, right? But the angle towards the north is very precisely mirrored. How come?
So you're saying that the earliest Persian constructions were aligned to imply an understanding of ley line structure and the energetic discharge points that you've rediscovered.
A portion of what you said is accurate. The portion that's about energy, I don't know. I don't have any evidence about the energy of that. I don't know if they're following any kind of energy lines or something. What I know is that the distances and the angles are carefully calculated and the shape of the structures. So how come? We have three structures that they're the shape, the base is a rectangle, almost the same. And they're tilted with the same angle. And they create a square that the square is also tilted in the same angle. And this is the fascinating part. Two more things I want to say. This shape is precisely the same as the shape of the roof of Kaba.
Wow. But the roof of Kaba, you're talking about in Mecca, the big square, right? So I thought it was open air. It's covered by a veil or something.
It's not covered. The building, the black, actually, cubic shape structure over there.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not recent. It's not built recent. Although it's been reconstructed later, but the main one was done by Abraham.
Okay, that's the big building. It's open air though. There's no roof.
The structure has a roof.
Okay.
But the area does not have a roof. So you can walk around it with free.
Okay.
So let me see if I have the shape of that to show you. There are a lot of these kind of information over there. Here. So below is the shape of Sha'Z Square. Can you see that?
Yeah.
This is a red area. So we have Iran and Iraq. Okay. And the same red, I put it up right beside the white shape. You see that? That white shape is by Google Earth from the roof of Mecca. And as you can see, by changing the scale, the shape is the same.
Interesting.
How come? These are built right before Islam, before many other prophets. Several thousand years ago, 500 years ago, 800 years ago. Okay. How did they know? how did they calculate their angles? Okay. These are some of the important things, right? And another fact, interestingly, the diameter of all three pyramids of Giza, all three of them, the diameter of them reaches Mecca. So if you draw a line, the diameters,
yeah,
and continue that line, it will go around the earth, right?
yes,
It will also pass Mecca.
and Mecca's on that line.
So
Yeah.
let me see if I have that picture here. These pictures are also on my website. Okay. But that's not the only one. Giza is very close by. Okay. There's another pyramid, like pyramids in the other side of the world in Southern America. Let me see if I can find that to show you. I'm jumping here and there, which I don't like. Okay. Yeah,
well, it's okay because the information you're putting forward, it's all connecting together. Is that yes. Why you had the square, the circle, the triangle? Is that your alchemical great work?
That's coming out. It's not the ultimate, but I have beyond that.
Yeah.
But these are the ones that is coming out in the later books. So coral, the coral structures, these are in
Florida.
Sacred City of Coral. Okay. It is in Norte Chico.
Oh, Mexico.
No, it's lower than that. Let me see. In Peru.
Okay. Well,
it's a Peruvian. Yes.
What is this?
It's like about 6,000 years old.
Hmm.
So there are also pyramids there, interestingly. But the pyramid is almost flattened now, but they know that the base is like a square. The diameter of the square from there also reaches to Mecca.
Hmm.
When I say Mecca, it's not very precise, right? I just put the lines and it looks like it's going there. So we have a 6,000 years old structure, and that's far away. And we have another structure here, which is the Egyptian pyramids, like 4,000, 5,000 years old, 4,500 years old, also reaches to this area. So this area looks like it's important.
So okay. Mecca was important before the Kaba got there.
So not the building. I'm just saying the area is important. Probably just build that over there. So it's way before. It was important way before this the Islam or Christianity. Okay, or the other religion. That's why it has nothing to do with religion, but it's an important place. Sure. But why it is important? Is it just because of religion? I don't think so. Because the science show it's more than that. Yeah. So when I look at the land and water, I came up with this, that area, it looks like it's a center of the masses, the lands on Earth. That's another fascinating point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's...
Here we go. Yeah. So now, you know, when you want to draw a map, we have a global map, like a globe, and we have a rectangle map, right? These are the projectiles that we use, two of them, but there are more. There's another map called azimuthal map. The azimuthal map is that when you have one spot on Earth and all the spots around it with the same distances are drawn. Okay, let me show you a map of azimuthal map of Earth centered at Mecca. This is here. This is the azimuthal map centered at Mecca. Now, it took me months to figure out something. So look at the circle. This is the furthest distance, the land distance from Mecca, from the center, which is Mecca. Okay. As you can see, the United States from here is over the curve, all the way down on that curve. So that means that the edge of the the American continent, this area, has the same distance to Mecca. And then this is Antarctica. And then we have Australia.
Yeah.
So is this just accidental, or there's a science, or there's a mathematical involved? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, After several months and several years looking at this, trying to figure out something, I noticed something very interesting. And it was one of my biggest actually discoveries here for myself. I just put it for myself. This image shows that the southern part of America, the shape, when you flip it or mirror it by the Mecca, comes to the other side, it fits exactly above Australia. So land versus water.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Southern America continent. Okay, have that in mind. This is one of the biggest continents. Now, let's go to the next one. The northern continent of America, when you flip it, comes down here in the water, which is beside Antarctica. This is like my illustration. I didn't draw it very carefully, okay?
Yeah, I understand.
So you can see that the land goes to water, and
Yeah.
this one went over there. And in the other side, you see the same.
Yeah.
Look at Australia.
Perfectly in
So
harmony, balanced, water versus land.
it looks like they're mirrored and they're also flipped,
Yeah.
right? You see
Right.
the shape? So when I was doing that, I found out that here we have an empty space here. You see that? We have an
Yeah.
empty space. There
Yeah.
should be a land there that the opposite of that fits here into this water. So there's a missing continent.
Atlantis.
Here we go. It might be there, but this is a huge continent. This is what I did. What I found this. It's like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, a long time ago. I don't know how long ago I found this, right? So so I discovered another continent, and I prove it by a mathematical, actually a geomathematical method. And this is all fact. It's not that I came up by imagination, okay? So there should be a continent to have a balance between the land and waters of the earth. If we find that continent, so the earth is not going to have 70% water, 30% land. It's probably going to have 50-50. So there's a balance there. Yeah. But that continent, why we don't see it, I think, I don't know, I'm not a geologist, okay? I think that that is not high enough to come above the surface of water. It's still under the water, or at one point it might have been, and so that if it was at one point and it went down for any reason, that proves that the Atlantic thing happened. But this is not an Atlantic Ocean. It's
in the
Pacific
Pacific.
Ocean.
Yeah. So Lemuria, Mu, whatever. But that may have thrown the balance off and affected our tilt, right? So that could have done a lot of things to our planetary atmosphere.
So I need to go and talk to geologists and earth science people, all the things, and say, hey, look at this. Now what you say? But I'm a quiet person. So I just sit down and just continue my own research, and I'm not a very talkative. I talked a lot today, but I think I talked like more than a year that I spoke about these things.
Shah, I have so many more questions specifically about North America, but it's already at 2.5 hours. So I think we're going to wind it down. But I wanted to give you a chance to wrap it up and to tell everybody where they can find you and any closing comments and anything like that.
Well, again, I appreciate that you had me in this program. I really appreciate that. Amazing. Thank you for having me.
Very well.
And I hope this information that I tried to bring out is useful somehow for everybody.
Very much.
Really, I'm trying to do that.
Yeah.
And so to wrap everything up is that it looks like our Earth, the information that we have is not enough. We need to get and collect more data and digest them more and calculate more and analyze more to come up with more information. So our life will become better and less miserable, okay? The thing that I found is that it looks like everything, although everything's connected to each other, what we have some facts and some clues how they are connected. So, and what I found is that there is a relationship between the biggest mysteries in our life and nature. And the relationship is mostly mathematics, the ones that I found, okay, so far, and I'm going that way. So the relationship between the nature and human as a part of a nature means that the airplanes and the UFO incidents and the disappearances of people, these things in specific locations are related to each other, okay? To convey and to explain these things, I needed to publish them step by step, one by one. There's a huge amount of research done, and I cannot fit all of them in one book. So I had to split them and go step by step. The first book that I published is Sha'Z Square, and it's been published in 2 languages, in English and in Farsi. Farsi was recently done. So that's most in the Middle East, and there's a relationship. It shows the relationship about many of these constructions that our ancestors built a long time ago, and how these constructions built and how they are related to each other, okay, with mathematics. I gave some examples, but there are other examples inside the book. There's an area inside the ocean, it's in the bottom of the ocean, it looks like rectangle, and I called it the rectangle anomaly, and that has specifications that is breathtaking. These are all in the book called Sha'Z Square, and that's the 2nd edition. Get the 2nd edition if you're interested about that. Then I came to United States because I'm living here, and there are a lot of mysteries that people are asking me, did you take a look at them? There are specific locations in United States, spots like Sedona Place, like the Devil's Tower, and like other places such as, what is it called?
The Oregon
Walker
Vortex.
Range.
Oregon
Yes.
Vortex too. That's
There's many of these places. And some of these places are near each other that we put them in an area. We found out, people, not me, practically found that they are in a triangular shape. One of them is the Bridgewater Triangle in the eastern corner, northeastern side of the United States. The other one is Lake Michigan Triangle. The third one is the Nevada Triangle. These are the 3 ones that we found so far on the main United States land. There are 3 more exciting ones. One of them is the Bermuda Triangle, which is very famous, and it's in the water. That's for another section, probably the 3rd book that I'm going to write after this. And there's another one, it's called Alaska Triangle. And there's another one near Japan called the Dragon's Triangle. I found a lot of interconnections between them mathematically and scientifically. These are all by map. But the one that I published so far as in part 1 of this series called Shah's Mystic Lines and Areas shows these 3 areas, the Bridgewater Triangle, the Lake Michigan Triangle, and the Nevada Triangle. These 3, the largest one is the Nevada Triangle. And like that. Fascinatingly, I found out that they are all 3 of them are on a straight line. The centers of them. So we have something in mathematics called the circumcenter and the circumcircle. So each triangle has only one, I repeat, only one circle that encompasses the whole triangle. So it touches the circumference of the circle, touches the 3 corners of the triangle. This is the key. When I put that, I found the center of it as a center of this. It's called circumcenter. All 3 of them, their circumcenters, when you connect them, are on a straight line. And that's the first part. The second part that I found is that they have the same, actually, proportion. So the size of Bridgewater Triangle and the size of the Nevada Triangle, when you draw the lines, you see that the Lake Michigan Triangle, it fits exactly in the middle. Exactly. Another thing I found is their distances. This distance is like 1/3 of this distance. So how come their distances are the same? And then I split the distances into equal distances. It gave me like about 400 miles. The number 400 is very interesting. For example, the distance from Earth to Moon is 1/400th of the distance from Earth to Sun, and also their dimensions, their what's it called? Their ratios. Okay, that's why when eclipse happens, the moon fits exactly the size of the sun. Okay, the ratios, it gives me the number 400 same way. So when I split the numbers into 400 sections, exactly 400 from the center of the Nevada Triangle reaches the Skinwalker Range. And interestingly, Skinwalker Range is on that line. So the distance and the location is related. Okay. According to the shape of these three triangles, I came up with a pattern. That pattern helped me to find another triangle here, which I call the Utah Triangle. This is for the first time being announced. The location, the distances, and their shape are related to each other. So there's another one here. There are two of them here, and there's one in New York. The one in New York is a little bit below this, what's called the Niagara Falls. And we have a lot of houses over there that they're haunted houses, just to give you an idea. These areas are enigmatic. These areas are somehow containing
thinner veil in those areas where things seem to be able to pierce through and these events can occur.
Yes. So these forces that are coming from under the ground that I was talking about, which is the hypothesis that I have, and is written in at the end of this, the last chapter of this book, explains why these locations are strange. So there's a specific force coming out from the ground, which is actually the combination or the net force of all the celestial objects and their movements around. So that's why we have different timing, and that's why we have different powers and forces. Okay, so these spots, so far I found that they are interesting. And there are a lot of other things involved, like, for example, the eclipse is involved. The recent eclipse that happened that crossed the United States, if you look at the path, this is a new thing. It passes exactly from this middle of between Utah Triangle and Nevada Triangle, exactly from the middle. And when it goes to the other side, these locations are also fascinating, shows specific geometric relationship between these lines. So the main line that I draw from here to here, I call that Shaw's principal line. Okay, this Shaw's principal line, if you continue, goes all around the world, including the location that Amelia Earhart, for example, got confused and got lost. Okay, this is just gives you a heads up about what's next in the next book on these things.
But I just want to ask one last question, Shah, real quick, because Japan has released a bulletin saying that they're worried about a big earthquake happening. So I can't let you off tonight without asking you if you can predict anything relating to Japan.
So predicting earthquake is a combination of all these things together. Okay. So one method that I did to, and I wrote it and published in that book, is that I looked at the Japan earthquake, now that you brought it up, okay? The Japan earthquake happened in specific time and location. So if I'm right, so the celestial objects going around the earth are related to the earthquakes, right? So one of the largest celestial object near earth is the sun. So we rotate around the sun once every year, right? So I went backwards to the previous earthquake, largest earthquake in 1 year that happened on the planet Earth. I found Haiti earthquake, which I was talking about it. So these two earthquakes are far away from each other. My intention was not their location. My intention was their timing and their magnitude. And the same distance of time, the gap that I found, I went backwards 6 times. I found 6, 7 earthquakes, okay? Their magnitudes were related and the times were related. My research was not have anything to do with the locations. But interestingly, when I put them together, all of them are on a straight line with same distances. And interestingly, in May, I think it was March 20th of 2012, which was my prediction, I came up with that date. And I'm writing this book in 2011, right? In 2012, I came up that the next earthquake is going to be again in Japan. And the time was about 7 a.m. in the morning, 7 to 8. And this is all published a year before the earthquake happened, okay? And it happened right in that time. The reason I came up with that is that these specific locations are 1,000 miles away from each other, 1,100, 1,200 miles away from each other on that line. And interestingly, very, very interestingly, the prediction date was March 20th of 2012, an eclipse was happening. This eclipse has a path on the Earth, and that path is precisely on the same path of these earthquakes.
It was on the path or the opposite side of the planet?
On the path.
It's on the path.
So I have a row of earthquakes
along the path of an eclipse.
Along the path of the eclipse. And I did this in 2011. It was published. You cannot find a book because it was ebook. And now, because nobody bought it, it looks like all those companies, they brought it down. Okay. And I hold on to that because I need more actually evidences and more calculations to be more precise. So I stopped the project in that time. And my focus was more on the hurricanes and volcanoes. And I found a lot of amazing relationships between them. And now that I put everything together, I came up with this hypothesis that how these are related to each other. And now I'm heading towards publishing them from one side, from another side, continuing my researches. And if I continue them, I can not only predict the earthquake, if this continues, and if I go forward, I need the AI, probably algorithm to help me to come up, put everything together to come up. I not only can predict earthquakes, I also can predict hurricanes and their path. And I can predict the volcano activities. It's all rhymed. They're all connected to each other. It's not they're not separate. So it's a multidisciplinary actually research that I'm doing all alone by myself, and I really need help. But
you need AI. You need to get through to Mike Adams because he's building benevolent AI for at least the health field. But maybe you could retool his base, his language model, and put some of this information in and see if you can get it to predict earthquakes.
So I need to collect the information.
But do you have any predictions to leave us with tonight? Have you looked ahead, and have you looked in when's the next big one?
I looked at them. I came up with my conclusions, but I'm not going to reveal them now because I'm not very sure, confident about them. I have to wait until those things happen, and then I build up. But instantly, as soon as I come up with that process and everything, I will reveal it and you will see.
Well, I look forward to one day in the future you putting this out in advance to, because like you said, the people that get hurt, it would be helpful if they knew. But I think somewhere in some deep, dark military industrial complex hole, they know some of this stuff because
hopefully
they've used weapons. They know when there's a window that's open where they could exploit these things. So what you're doing is you're bringing it to the masses. You're bringing it to the people. And I appreciate that.
If they know it, I respect them because they like to protect our people. So what they're doing, the government and all the military, everybody is what they're doing is to protect our people. And if we are sitting down and talking with each other very freely, is because of the security that we have. Yes. So that's why I always appreciate that. Yeah. But hopefully they will open up and eventually other people will know.
Right. It will help. We've seen in Mexico, they had a drill on earthquakes, and that day there was an earthquake and a lot of damage, but everybody was out of the buildings, stuff like that. Yes. So again, sir, thank you very much for this interview. Welcome. And again, we're both going to be speaking at the Alien event at the ALEXIS Park Resort in Las Vegas, October 17th through 20th. There's a great cast of speakers there. These events are very down to earth. You're available to speak to the people there. The guests have access to the speakers. There's a lot of social events, and it's a beautiful experience. So those of you that have enjoyed Shah's information and want to know more, because he's totally got more. This was a teaser tonight. He's got more.
Well, I hope he's
making us wait for his books. Sorry, go ahead.
I hope this information that everybody's giving and I'm giving, I'm just a curious person. That's it. I just collected it. But I hope this information that I gathered and I provided so far in my books and my search is it's useful, it's helpful. The website that I put this information in, just to bring it up, is Ancient Mysteries Decoded. It's a trademark, actually, name and logo. So you can communicate with me through that portal. And the books are there, the videos are there, my other speeches are also there, and everything, the pictures, everything is there. And I hope to see you at the alien events. If you have any questions, I will be more than happy to answer over there.
All right, buy his book, folks. He's a brilliant man. Thank you very much, Shah, and we will see
You're
you
welcome.
all at the alien event in October.
Thank
Have
you
a
so
good day.
much. Have a good day.